Coming up now is another sparkling Two Mikes podcast. Yeah, but at 19 with the Vauxhall Viva, I was a babe magnet.
Really? Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mikes on talkSPORT. It's all about the money this morning here as the Premier League prepares for another record-breaking transfer window, spending billions and billions of pounds. Well, some of it goes on John Terry at Arsenal. Will Man United get their Griezmann? And will Everton offload Romelu Lukaku? We'll bring you the answers to these and other questions. 08717 2233 Also coming up on the show, we're looking ahead to a massive weekend of sport, the Derby and the Champions League final tomorrow, the first Lions game in New Zealand, and India-Pakistan on Sunday as well. Plus, it's Porky quiz day, and he has to be on the Champions League. Porky says he's an expert, so I'm predicting 3 out of 10. You're listening to the Two Mikes with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on talkSPORT. This is talkSPORT. We are the Two Mikes, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very, very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning to you, Mike. Delighted to be here.
Absolutely.
It's a brilliantly burning hot day outside, but we are in this air-conditioned studio here at talkSPORT Towers.
Yes.
And ready to run.
And it is National Fish and Chip Day as well, so you've got something to look forward to when you finish. You can go off and have your first of 2 fish and chip meals.
Well, I won't be eating 2 today. The
Why
only
not?
time I ever did that was when I had a very, very long day. You know,
right.
when I had my first lot at 11 in the morning
I
and the
see.
second lot at 7 or 8 at night.
If you didn't actually move between the two, though, did you?
No, I didn't actually,
No.
because it was just convenient to stay where I was.
Yes.
But, no, that's absolutely brilliant, because I fear for fish and chips in a way that I'm always reading that, you know, the cod stocks in the North Sea are disappearing, so will fish and chips.
Uh-huh.
They never will.
Right.
As long as there's a Great Britain, there'll be fish and chips.
We shall see. Anyway, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on
Indeed.
in the show. For the moment, what we need to talk about is the enormous amount of money that's going to be spent in the transfer window coming up at the end of this month, I suppose you might say, or possibly before the end of this month. Lukaku, 100 million quid. We're talking about the possibility of Griezmann coming or not coming.
Sure.
We're talking about the possibility of all kinds of big names being trawled by the likes of Manchester City, who say that they're going to go and get the best talent around the world.
Yeah, but you've raised a very good question this morning, even though I say it myself.
Thank you.
If Manchester City are saying we're going to spend 300 million, we can't identify £300 million worth of talent on the globe for them to buy. And that's going to inflate the prices of people like Lukaku.
Yeah.
Fortunately, if he has to leave Everton, I'd love him to leave for £100 million, although I'd prefer him to stay.
Right. I mean, what would you put up as a price tag on Virgil van Dijk at Southampton, for example?
Well, I've seen £80 million mentioned
70,
this morning.
Certainly, 75
£80 million for a man who's yet to emerge as a truly great defender. You know, I mean, not talking here about Bobby Moore. We're talking about a guy who's very competent in the Premier League.
And what about Alexandre Lacazette?
Lacazette.
Well, it sounds like something you'd order in a French bistro.
Are they talking 50 million quid for him?
Lacazette, 50 million quid, absolutely.
Right.
Which sounds like a bargain now.
Yeah, well,
50 million quid.
Yeah, it does. It sounds like you're spotting a star of the future.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's a gamble or not, I do not know.
What I would like to know from people listening to the show out there, people who can call us and tell us, you know, who are the so-called 5 best players in the world who are going to come to the Premier League and play? Mark Schwarzer earlier was saying, well, Neymar might be one of them because he might decide he wants to leave Barcelona.
Sure.
They've got a new manager coming in. You know, he might not fancy Neymar. I just don't know. I can't think of the top 5 players who are already, are going to be available to come to the Premier League who are not already here.
Yeah, well, I agree with some of that. The point is, because I'm a student of economics, I can understand how the mechanic of supply and demand is going to kick in to the transfer market this summer. For instance, Eden Hazard, Real Madrid want him, so are they going to say we're going to offer 100 million quid? That would tempt anybody.
I'm sure that they could offer 100 million quid. It's the kind of money that they throw around like confetti, isn't it?
David De Gea, now...
David De Gea, you mean?
David De Gea.
David De Gea.
David De Gea.
De Gea.
David De Gea. Sorry, I did that deliberately.
I know you did.
No, what I'm saying is that the official word from Manchester United is already he's not for sale.
He's not for sale, even for 60 million.
Well, exactly, because they want 80 million for him, so he's going to be for sale, in my view, at 80 million. And that's quite an interesting story in its own right, really, because for absolutely decades, goalkeepers have been undervalued in the transfer market.
Sure.
Brian Clough realised that before he could get a winning team, he needed a winning goalkeeper. That's why he went and bought Peter Shilton.
Yes.
Everton, when they won their leagues in the 80s, right, knew that a lot of it, 14 or 15 points a year, it was reckoned, was down to Big Nev.
Yes.
Neville Southall.
Right.
And I don't know why goalkeepers don't come at a premium. You know, there's only one goalkeeper on a pitch. There's 10 other players, if you see what I mean.
But also, the best goalkeeper that England have got, supposedly, according to the fact that he plays in goal for England, Joe Hart, wasn't wanted by Manchester City. And he was shunted off to Italy, where apparently he's not going to play for Torino next season.
I know.
Is he going to come back? And in which case, how much money is he going to be worth?
No, again, you're absolutely right. Griezmann has said, Griezmann, I think what's happened here is...
Griezmann doesn't seem to stop talking about how he might be leaving.
Yeah, but I think Griezmann might have heard that Manchester United have gone cool on him because Jose apparently now is saying that instead of having Griezmann to support Ibra next season or play off Ibra, they're going to need a new Ibra.
Yes.
And therefore, old Griezmann's gone down the pecking order.
That's where the Lacazette guy comes in.
That's where Lacazette, the £50 million.
Well, I mean, the 300 million that Manchester City are going to spend apparently has already started. They've got a new goalkeeper coming in, right? A guy called Ederson.
Who's this?
35 million. He's their new goalkeeper.
Who's?
He's a Manchester City.
Manchester City. Yeah,
he's Brazilian, but he's not even about Brazilian international.
I know. I get the impression that Pep's bought that guy Ederson just really to keep answering the critics who said, "Why have you
Why did you get rid of Joe Hart?"
Yeah, exactly. Why have you offloaded Joe Hart? And he can't answer that. And it would be a massive U-turn for Pep Guardiola.
Yeah.
Because these guys don't like doing U-turns because they are the oracles. You know what I mean?
They don't like to admit they're wrong.
They don't like to admit they're wrong. And I don't think he wants to U-turn and bring Joe Hart back. So he has to.
He certainly doesn't want to do that. No. But what we want to do is hear from you out there. You could be a Manchester City fan. You could indeed be a Chelsea fan because we're also going to ask you the question that is being asked in one of the papers this morning. Should John Terry go and play for Arsenal? And should Arsenal actually batter down their door to go and get him?
Well, talking about transfers, I mean, Tony Adams was in the studio just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, I noticed that you went up and shook hands with him just to make sure that he didn't recognise you.
Well, why would he recognise me?
Well, he didn't recognise you, that's the point. Luckily for you, because you spent the best part of the last month calling him the worst manager that you've ever seen in the history of football.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I said that he's been unlucky with his results at Grenada.
No, that's not what you said. No, what you said is his man possibly the worst manager of all time?
Well, he didn't seem to take objection when I went up and shook hands with him this morning and introduced myself.
I hadn't listened to what you've been saying about him.
Somebody said that I looked like Alf Garnett from...
really?
Yeah, when I was bowing and scraping like he did when Bobby Moore was a guest on his show, which I think is rather harsh.
Yeah, well, probably fair, though.
Yeah. But anyway, look, I'm going to put this number out here because I want you to call us this morning.
Why don't you do that?
In particular, Arsenal fans, I mean, people are talking about spending hundreds of millions of pounds on players.
Yeah.
You could get John Terry for free. And I've seen some commentators in some publications this morning saying this is an obvious move.
Yeah.
That somebody's got to take John Terry for free. Why don't Arsenal? The number is... What's the number? 08717.
Yeah.
Now, I like to do this slowly.
How long you worked here?
Yeah, I don't like to mumble this number because if you mumble the number, it's disrespectful to the listeners who can't pick it up.
It's almost as bad as interrupting yourself while you're in the middle of reading the number out.
It is. So it is 08717 22 33 4.
Exactly right. Here's one from Alan who says, surely it's fish and chip day every day for Porky Parry.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if it was.
And also another one here from somebody calling himself Me. Is Porky worried about Lukaku going to Manchester United? It could now happen. We are launching ourselves into a summer of madness, and that's what people are telling us in the papers this morning. They're all saying that there's going to be ridiculous amounts being spent on players, some of whom may not be worth the money.
Exactly.
Eden Hazard is apparently being stalked by Real Madrid for about 100 million quid. Lukaku is about 100 million quid's worth of money worth to Everton if he goes to Manchester United. Antoine Griezmann, possibly a target for 87 million. Where is it all going to end? Let's talk to Charlie Wyatt, who is, of course, the Sun's football editor. Charlie, very good morning to you.
Morning, how you doing?
Yeah, very
pretty
well
good, mate.
Indeed. Now, I mean, every single year we expect there to be a ludicrous amount of money spent, but this summer it seems as if there's going to be even more crazy numbers being thrown up, and it could be, 2-3 billion quid spent over the course of the next month and a half?
Look, yesterday, when the figures were announced, what clubs spent in the last year compared to their European neighbours, and I think in the next few months, those figures will increase even more, aren't they? Yeah, the British clubs, or the English clubs rather, are going to spend big. Real Madrid, obviously, have got money as well, and they're looking at Mbappe, a target for other clubs. So you've got Bayern Munich who want Alexis Sanchez, so I think there will be a merry-go-round. I know in other years we've always predicted it, and it's not always happened, but I think over the next 10 weeks, we're going to see a lot of activity. Last year it was all about the managers, wasn't it, in England as well? And there were some big names arrived. But this year, thankfully, it is going to be about the players.
Yeah, the thing is, though, Charlie, although there's a load of money sloshing around, we learnt only this morning, didn't we? Chelsea paid £150.8 million by the Premier League for winning the title this season. That includes, obviously, broadcast rights and all that. So the money's sloshing around everywhere, but actually there aren't a lot of quality players either available or playing on earth at the moment. So where's all the money going to go? Is Romelu Lukaku really going to be worth £100 million to Manchester United?
Well, he's not. He's worth £100 million if there are two clubs willing to pay that. Of course, it is a ridiculous amount of money. You mentioned Chelsea there, and it is interesting that, of course, the last two Premier League winners, Chelsea and, of course, Leicester, have not spent as much as Manchester City or Manchester United. Again, in that list, Atletico Madrid. Yep. Look how they did in the Champions League finals. They spent £4 million less than Sunderland.
Amazing.
So it does say, you need money in this game now, but you need to spend it properly, don't you? And a lot of clubs don't spend it properly. So ultimately, as Conte proved beyond doubt, it is about getting the team right, having some stardust sprinkled over a side, but also making them defend properly. And particularly with a lot of the English teams, as we've seen in Europe, defending properly is a bit of an issue.
Well, it's interesting what you say about Conte, because he did precisely what a lot of clubs don't do. He just sort of targeted a couple of people to improve the side, whereas you've got someone like Manchester City who was saying, we're going to go and hoover up all the best talent in the world. We're going to spend at least 300 million quid, which is only going to do one thing. It's going to mean that you're going to have to pay something like 70 million, which is what we're being told Virgil van Dijk's price tag now is.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's no doubt that City need new players. They're 7 go. They've got an ageing squad. They do need an overhaul. But the key is you've got to get the balance right, haven't you?
Well, they've just renewed Yaya Touré's contract. I mean, what have they done that for?
I don't know.
Well, look, again, it's a lot of money for him. Short-term, 1-year contract. It's probably not the worst thing in the world, even though he was frozen out for 3 months by Guardiola. He came back against Crystal Palace and actually in the second half of the season was quite an important player for them. But you've got to look at some of the other money they've wasted, and equally, all the players they're going to bring in, well, they're not all going to be a success, and sometimes it'd be nice to see a few younger players promoted from their academy, but we keep saying that about all our English clubs, and it's not happening, is it? Which is a real frustration for me.
That's right. Now, a colleague of yours this morning, Charlie, has put forward the suggestion that Arsenal should sign John Terry on a free. Now, this is either, the most brilliant piece of thinking since the great philosophers gave up thinking, or...
You can't think of any, can you?
No, I can't, no. Or it's pie in the sky.
Well, it's a good talking point. I mean, that's the thing. It's a good talking point whether John Terry would go to Arsenal, whether Arsenal fans would, welcome him.
Well, that's the crucial thing, I think. That's a crucial thing. Couldn't the Arsenal fans bear to see John Terry wearing a Gunners shirt?
Yeah, if they, a lot of them would not be excited by the prospect. But I tell you what, if John Terry came into that team and in the first 3 games of the season, managed to have a really good combination with Laurent Koscielny, and they started winning games, and they were top of their Champions League group, I don't really think Arsenal fans would care about his long association with Chelsea.
No, they wouldn't.
Fans ultimately want their team to win, and I'm not sure they're really bothered.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Arsenal fans actually should welcome John Terry with open arms, because he brings a philosophy of football to Arsenal which has been absolutely missing this season.
It's a philosophy and also a mentality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having been at many, many Arsene Wenger press conferences, even in the last season, the one thing he used to repeatedly stress after wins was their strong mentality, how they were mentally strong. Well, the fact Arsenal finished where they did last season was because they weren't mentally strong.
Exactly.
That's the whole problem with that team. They've got the talent, and on their day, they play brilliant football, but Arsenal need some real winners in there, and I don't think at the back, particularly, they've got winners. And John Terry would be one of those players. Yes. Whether that's going to happen or not, I'm not so sure. But what Arsene Wenger, now he's here for another 2 years, he needs some mentally strong players because he's not got enough of them.
He needs them to have the mental strength that he's had to have over the course of the year to put up with all the sort of slings and arrows that have been thrown at him, and he's just taken it all, and now he's got himself another 2 years. But you've got a page, the back page lead on the paper this morning, Charlie, in the Sun, saying that they're ready to sign up Mesut Ozil on $280,000 a week. What's that going to do to their so-called policy of not paying players more than a certain amount of money?
Well, I think that has to go out the window. I mean, Arsenal historically have always paid quite high amounts in terms of wages for their players. They've not gone to the Man City or Man United levels, but their squad in total have been on a lot of money. Let's go back a few years to Nicholas Bentner and his, 52 on the back of his shirt, getting £52,000 a week. In those days, for a player of Bentner's ability, that was a lot of money. Arsenal have always paid good wages. It's a little bit of a miss, but they've not done the superstar wages. But if they want to keep Ozil, it looks as though Alexis Sanchez is going to leave. I think it'll be more than 280,000. 280,000 is what has last been offered.
I mean, they're talking 350 now, aren't they?
That's what Ozil wants, and I think he's telling people he's ready to cut a deal. Obviously, his agent is doing his job and playing hardball. But I think Mesut Ozil loves playing for Arsenal. He enjoys that club, and I think he'll stay. But I'm not sure Sanchez has similar views, and he'll be going there. My hunch is that it'll be Bayern Munich where he goes to.
Okay. Are you expecting, Charlie, to see a big influx of big names? I mean, I'm not sure there are that many big names out there, to be honest.
Who are these big names?
They're not already here. I mean, Mark Schwarzer was on Breakfast saying, maybe Neymar's going to pop over from Barcelona. I don't know if you've heard anything down that particular road. But if Hazard's leaving, if Sanchez is leaving, are we actually not going to end up with sort of a net loss of stars?
Yes.
Well, I think Real Madrid can only buy so many players. There has been an interest in Hazard. We know that. They're also interested in Kylian Mbappe at Monaco. Other teams like Arsenal and Chelsea have looked at. I think Mbappe will probably go to Real Madrid. So, they can only sign so many players. I know it seems in the past they've had a bottomless pit of cash, but they'll sign one or two big players. But I think a lot of I hope some of the bigger stars in England, like Hazard, will stay at Stamford Bridge.
OK, now talking about Real Madrid, talking about transfers this summer, if I was Gareth Bale and I started on the subs bench tomorrow, I know he's had injuries and all that kind of stuff, but do you not think the lure of the green, green grass of home, don't you think that, allied with the fact that Manchester United are looking for great players, and he's a great player, isn't that a possibility?
Manchester United have repeatedly been in for Gareth Bale over the last few years, and they've tried and failed. I think Gareth Bale will stay at Real Madrid. I think he's really happy there still. I don't think he's bothered about the possibility of Mbappe coming to Monaco. He's obviously frustrated with the injury that he picked up against Barcelona. He's not 100% fit, as he's accepted. So the best he can hope for is the bench tomorrow. So I think he'll be a substitute. If that match wasn't in Cardiff and it wasn't a Champions League final, Gareth Bale would not be anywhere near that squad. He'd be looking for next season. So it's only because of what it really means to him personally that he's really gone for this game. Otherwise, he'd have just looked, to recuperate. So obviously, we mustn't read anything into the fact that he's going to be on the bench for his future, but he is happy there. Zinedine Zidane loves him. It would be a massive, massive surprise for me if at this stage Bale would want to leave Real Madrid, who arguably are the biggest club in the world.
Charlie, listen, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Charlie
White there from The Sun. He says Gareth Bale's going to stay, of course, at Real Madrid. Is Lukaku going to stay at Everton? Is John Terry going to go to Arsenal? So many questions. We need some answers from the people who are listening to this show. 08717 223344.
And Charlie says Arsenal fans will welcome with open arms John Terry, because he will bring that mental toughness to the back four that they haven't so far showed this season, except perhaps in one game.
OK, well, let's see whether they will do that. Let's see whether they will welcome him with open arms. This is talkSPORT. We are the two Mikes. Got a lot of interest in this John Terry story. A lot of Arsenal fans basically saying they don't want him back. Gaz says this, though. Please don't laugh, but I think West Ham should be talking to John Terry back where he came from. And Sean says Spurs have first refusal on Gareth Bale. I think we should put in a cheeky bid. Champions League football, Wembley, then the new stadium.
Yeah, but I'm not sure he would go back there anyway. He wants to go forward. He wants to go from one of the world's biggest clubs to another.
Well, that may well be. Let's see. 08717 223344. 844. We'll take your calls very shortly. Star Sixes is reuniting some of football's great names in London this summer. You can catch the fast-paced six-a-side action at the O2 from the 13th to the 16th of July as huge stars compete in a Legends World Cup with 12 nations battling it out.
Absolutely right. England are reuniting the golden generation. Gerrard, Ferdinand, Owen, James, Neville and Heskey lining up for the three lions. Now, tickets, which start at £30 for adults and £10 for under 16s, are on sale now at www.starsixes.com.
That's right. Head to talksport.com/win right now for your chance to win 4 VIP hospitality tickets to Star Sixes and a Star Sixes football signed by the England team.
Yeah, that sounds great.
It does sound great.
Of course, we're on the cusp now of British Lions territory, aren't we?
We certainly are.
Tomorrow morning.
In fact, we're going to go down under a little bit later on in the show.
We are,
to talk to young Mr. Andrew McKenna, who's down there for talkSPORT, amongst the whole team of people who are bringing you every Lions game.
That's right.
That's right. Very exciting.
Have you noticed, because as an observer of all things sport, I notice these sort of things. Have you noticed that rugby players always try to appear to look hard and, like tough.
Well, they are
like
tough.
Tough guys.
Yeah, but they are tough.
No, but they
don't have to try to look tough.
No, you don't understand what I'm saying. They try to put this image over. Now, what I'm saying is that most rugby players, at international level, because of the way our society is structured, have had a better education usually than some of our football players.
You might say that, I suppose.
And you could say the footballers come usually or sometimes from backgrounds which, makes them more streetwise than rugby players. You see what I mean? You understand?
I think it depends on which country you're talking about.
Well, I'm talking about England. Yeah. I'm talking about the United Kingdom.
In Wales, for example. In Wales, rugby is a much more working class sport. There's a lot more kids from Welsh working class houses that end up playing rugby for their country.
But footballers don't go strutting around trying to look hard and tough all the time, and having facial expressions which are mean and all that kind of stuff.
Are you saying that these rugby players are putting it on?
Yeah, they do. I think it's part of their persona. I think they deliberately try to look hard.
Have you ever stood amongst a group of rugby players? I don't think you would have done, because if you had done it, you would have felt very small. I once stood amongst a group of Welsh players.
Right.
We were all
Welsh international players,
in a nightclub,
Yes, I see.
And they were huge.
You're in a nightclub.
We were in a nightclub,
It wasn't like at, the National Stadium or anything like that. It was a nightclub.
No, it was in a nightclub.
A fitting place to meet the international rugby team, was it, of Wales?
It was during or just after the Rugby World Cup was held in Wales.
Yeah.
And I was quite friendly with them, and so we all ended up going out one night.
Yes.
And to stand in the midst of a group of rugby players is quite a humbling experience, because it made me feel petite for the first time in my life.
No.
Because the smallest one of them was about 6'3".
About 6'3". I mean, they have to be physically big for the the roles they play in a rugby team.
Yeah.
But I always think that they always try to look mean, you know what I mean, and sort of don't mess with me type attitude. Off the pitch, I'm talking about.
Generally speaking, they're less likely though to kick off and be sort of tough than footballers. Perhaps.
Well, there's been incidents when rugby players have, but I see now that there's a view within rugby that the haka is losing its appeal.
Yes,
because it's no longer frightening or
intimidating.
Also
it's being done so much.
Exactly.
I mean, when they arrived in Auckland, there was about 6 people doing the haka in front of them at the airport,
which
looked a bit ridiculous.
Throwing
to be
branches on the floor and all that kind of stuff, all that sort of stuff. And but nevertheless, the England team, the England squad, and everybody tried to look tough and mean.
Yeah.
Well, they should have had a smile on their faces. They were arriving, in New Zealand, and it's going to be a great, celebration of rugby coming up and all that kind of stuff.
Which it will be.
But they, when you see the guys in the scrums, they pull faces at each other and that kind of stuff. They're like boxers at weigh-ins. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're always trying to appear to be hard, and I think it's quite off-putting.
Well, I think if you were ever in a scrum, you would understand that they're not trying to be hard. They actually are being hard, and they're very, very tough guys, and you wouldn't want to go anywhere near them, especially after saying what you've just said, because you're effectively saying they're putting it on.
Well, no, I think they're not putting it on. I think it's part of the persona of being a rugby player, to be honest. I think they have to sort of appear to be like that on and off the pitch. They don't want to be caught out looking anything except tough. And, I do think it's a bit of a sort of come on, you know what I mean?
Really?
Yes.
How about this from Neil, who's tweeted in at the 2 Mikes? He said, John Terry back to Nottingham Forest. Show our defence how to play in a future coaching career. You heard it here first. When he says back to Nottingham Forest, what does he mean by that?
Well, I think he's trying to claim there, he's got a bit of inside info that John Terry might be going to Nottingham Forest. I'm sorry.
Why would he be going back, though, to Nottingham Forest?
I've no idea.
He hasn't been there before,
No, he's not been anywhere except Chelsea in the whole of his life.
No, the big question is whether Arsenal fans want him. The ones who are tweeting us certainly say that they don't seem to think that he's a good idea coming to Arsenal. But if Sanchez is leaving and Ozil is staying, what else is going to be going on at Arsenal in order for them to get themselves back into the top 4? call.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you. 08717 22 33 444.
No, I totally agree there. It doesn't matter whether John Terry goes to Arsenal or whoever Arsenal sign, or, now that we know Arsene Wenger's staying for 2 more years.
Yeah.
You still won't be able to buy a season ticket at Arsenal this season because they're all sold out.
No. But are they going to be sold out for the Europa League nights? That would be another question.
Well, I don't know about that. That's a good question because, of course, it's a relatively minor competition compared to what they've been playing for the last 16 seasons, 17 seasons.
And also, how does that work? If you're an Arsenal season ticket holder,
yes.
You'll know this from being an Everton season ticket holder, it doesn't get you into every European game, does it?
At Everton, I think you get the first 3 free or something like that.
Well, Everton, they don't have very many, do they? I'm talking about at Arsenal.
Well, we've got a full season of them this season.
Well, you'll have all the but will you,
We're
for
in
example,
exactly the same competition as
they
Arsenal.
are. This season, yes, the competition that you don't like.
Well, no, I think sometimes you've got to have a different sort of squad to be playing Thursday night European football.
Yes.
But I'm sure Mr. Koeman will look after that.
But what I'm saying is, do you, as a season ticket holder, immediately get a seat at a Europa League game, or do you have to then apply for a separate seat?
No. I don't know what the rules are this season because I haven't had my new ticket yet. But the point I was going to make is that if there's any sort of economic concerns in this country, it does not extend to football fans because. For the first time this year that I can remember, when I wanted my choice of lounges at Everton, right, because I was thinking about changing.
What's wrong with the lounge you're in?
Well, it's interesting, actually. I used to be in a place called the Joe Mercer Lounge, and I sort of went up market a bit because I wanted a lounge where you could go and have a sit-down, dinner, lunch or dinner before the game, depending on what time the game is.
Right.
So that's okay, fine. The people around the table are all fine. But the people in the stand, when they go and sit down, they're not very communicative.
Are you saying you don't get on with them?
Well, I kind of
the time, by the way.
I kind of suspect. Don't worry about the time.
Maybe they just don't like you.
I don't think they do.
Yeah, well,
I don't think they do.
I don't like you much either.
They don't talk.
I have to talk to you.
No, they don't talk to me for some unknown reason.
Right.
And I don't know why. I try
to all sit there in silence?
Well, I try to be friendly and I try to, book things up and have a bit of a laugh in the show.
Great.
And they keep turning around and saying, "Shut up."
Really?
Yeah. And the,
it sounds a bit hostile.
Well, it's, I'm trying to work out what it is, what the relationship between myself and the people who sit around me at Goodison is all about.
Well, clearly they don't like you. I think it's as simple as that.
And the people who sit next to me, I always sit on the end of a row. I always have to sit there because sometimes I have to leave, just before the whistle to dash back to Lime Street to get the train back to London. So, there's nobody on my left, but there's people on my right. And sometimes when I talk to them, they don't actually want to engage in conversation. I can't believe it, actually, because almost everywhere else I go in life, people want to talk to me.
Well, maybe it's because they don't want you to start talking because you never stop talking. Well, because right now, for example, we have to stop talking because it's getting very late. You have no concept of time. And you'd probably still be talking to them when the first whistle went off. And that's probably why they don't want to start engaging you. Anyway, we are the two mics. This is talkSPORT. We're going to take your calls. We promise, coming up next, 08717 22 33 44. This is the two mics on talkSPORT with Wix. Right now there's 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care. Now, we've been talking about John Terry.
Yes.
Lots and lots of people have told us about his connection with Nottingham Forest. But we're going to talk to Gary now, who's a Nottingham Forest fan, who's going to fill us in completely. Gary, very good morning to you.
Whether I can fill you in completely, I don't know. But he played for Forest as a very young player. I think he was about 18, 19.
Right. Okay.
And made his debut for Forest before he made his debut for Chelsea.
So he was out on loan to Forest, effectively, was he?
Yeah, he was on loan to Forest. I forget for how long. I think it was a matter of 2 or 3 months. Somebody may know better. But I remember watching him, and he was one of the very few players that you'd say, he is going to be class.
Yeah,
he was that good.
And I mean, what was the connection with Nottingham Forest, Gary?
I have no idea. I think at the time, I think I seem to remember Paul Hart was manager again.
Right. Yeah,
but it was like I say, he was a very young 18-year-old, and he was just class at the back.
So you then saw his
what we had, put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. You then saw his career take off, Gary, and you thought, this man is in the right place. Who's lifted the Premier League title? Yeah. Is it 4 times? Yeah, 4 times. And now the question is, would he be an asset to Arsenal if he went to Arsenal and joined their back four? From your evidence of seeing him as a young man, can you make a judgment on that?
seen him as a young man. I think he's had a lot more of a successful career.
Yeah, that's possibly one of the most stupid questions you've ever been asked.
No, because you're talking about the will of the boy, even at that age. You're talking about him being a different class even then. I mean, presumably he's got better since then. He'd be an asset to Arsenal.
Well, yeah, the question is whether he's too old now, though, isn't it?
Well, no, I don't think it is. Is it, Gary?
If you're on about too old for Arsenal, I haven't got maybe not. Too old for Forest. I don't think he'd come to Forest in the mere fact we've just got new owners and new chairman. The chairman's just come out with a very long letter to all the supporters saying what the plan is.
And what is the plan?
I don't think that well, like I say, it's a very long letter, but it is as an example of a new chairman and new owner. I think it's a fine example of setting out to supporters what they plan to do with the club.
Okay.
Therefore, I don't think John Terry would fit into that plan because I think the wages would be too high.
Yeah, exactly.
Having said that, who knows what he'd want to do with his career? Maybe he would he really want to go and play in the Championship?
No, I doubt it very much indeed. I doubt it very much indeed. If commentators within football who look at these things and hear what's going on in football are saying that maybe Arsene Wenger should take a chance on him, he's not going to end up at Forest, is he? He's going to end up somewhere else.
If I was looking at Arsenal and the way they can, I think there are several sides in the top flight that would benefit from John Terry.
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
Yeah, not just necessarily on the pitch, but also off the pitch as well. Gary, listen, thank you very much indeed for your call. Interesting about Nottingham Forest and the new plan. We might have to look into that coming up next week.
Yeah, plan
A. Exactly right. I mean, one of the things that's being said about John Terry this morning by Neil Ashton, actually, in the papers, and of course he's got his own show here on talkSPORT. He says that people like Rob Holding and Mustafi at Arsenal would very much benefit from having the likes of John Terry around because of his experience. Yeah. He might not start every game. He might not even play that much. I mean, he didn't play that much for Chelsea last season.
No, he didn't, no.
But he came in at sort of, infrequently, but always did the job that he was asked to do.
Yes.
So we want to hear from more of you at Arsenal there, please. Yes. 08717 22 3344. James says this, maybe the people sat around Porky are window cleaners from Blackburn, who you were insulting the other day, of course.
No, it wasn't.
And Andy says, no wonder no one wants to spark a conversation with Porky. He's like a roller towel. He just goes on and on and on.
That's very nice, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, very, very harsh indeed.
Yeah. And Pete says this, actually. Why is Porky offended that people don't want to engage him? He's always banging on about how he doesn't like being approached.
No, I don't.
Maybe they're frightened of you.
No, rubbish. I've never said that. I've just said it's time and opportunity.
No, you said that if you're sitting in a hostelry sometimes on your own, busily reading the papers, you don't like people coming up to you and asking you anything.
Well, no, I don't say that. It's just time and place stuff, isn't it? I'm a very sociable individual, as you well know. Look, talking about players and which clubs they go to and all that kind of stuff. I mean, who is going to take the place of Ibrahimovic at Manchester United?
Ibrahimovic,
at Manchester United. I mean, what do Manchester United? Who do Manchester United fans think is going to fill that gap? If Ibra's not ready to play football again until December, and he's not going to be,
well, he may not ever be able to play football.
Well, that's what I mean. And obviously, Jose Mourinho's tactic now is to say, well, I don't want Griezmann anymore because I wanted Griezmann to play off Ibrahimovic. Yeah. Now I've got to find another Ibrahimovic, but there isn't. That player doesn't exist, does he?
Well, also Ibrahimovic did a specific thing which only he can do. I mean, a lot of people said that when Ibrahimovic wasn't playing, like towards the end of the season when they won the Europa League title and all the rest of it, that actually they played a lot quicker.
Yeah.
With Ibrahimovic, they played a lot slower.
Yes.
Because he's not a quick player. And Rashford was actually able to do a lot more runs.
Yes.
And in fact, as the younger members of the team then took over.
Yeah.
So why would you want to replace that kind of player?
Well, yes, I totally agree. But the Manchester United fans must have in their own heads the idea of where they'd like it to go and who the striker's going to be. Are they happy to take?
Well, some people think Lukaku's going to go to Man United.
That's what I was about to say. Are they happy to take Romelu Lukaku for 100 million quid?
No, I wouldn't have thought he's worth that.
Well, Everton aren't going to let him go for anything else now because they know that there's a worldwide shortage of class strikers, and Lukaku is amongst the very best that are available, right? So are they going to do that, or are they going to say, well, actually, no, I tell you what, let's just spend 50 million quid and take this guy Alexandre Lacazette.
Lacazette, yeah.
Yeah, Lacazette. Now, who's he play for? Lyon.
He's over in France, I think.
Yeah, that's right. And apparently Arsenal are after him. But again, because of the worldwide shortage of strikers, are United going to try and move in on that and up the ante and take him? I don't think there's anybody around who looks like they're going to be that person to lead the line at Manchester United.
No.
I think...
Well, there's a diminishing number of stars out there, right? There's a diminishing number of players in Europe who are all going to be being chased by Manchester City, probably by Manchester United, probably by Arsenal, very possibly by Spurs as well. We haven't even mentioned Spurs in this equation yet, because they may want to buy a couple of players too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, they might, but what I think is going to happen is I think that Jose is going to have a real rethink about the way he's going to have to do it next season, because you're absolutely right. You know, Ibra went there, and I always thought it was going to be a one-season plug the gap type thing, a bit like when Teddy Sheringham went to United under Sir Alex Ferguson.
And Henrik Larsson did the same.
Henrik Larsson, absolutely. I mean, Teddy Sheringham stayed more than one season, didn't he? He stayed for a couple, but he was vital to the policy of having 4 strikers, which they always had.
Sure.
Yeah, and
he also slotted in with the team. No
of course
problem
he did. Of course he did. An interchangeable, two-man, two-pronged attack. He could alternate at any time. They can't do that now because there aren't the people around to do it.
Yeah.
So Jose's going to have a think again, but it'd be interesting to see who the Manchester United fans think can do that job.
Yes, indeed. Well, we'll hear from them as well coming up.
Yes.
08717 2233 got a couple of other tweets that are coming in.
Yes.
One from a guy who says that he's met the French rugby team and they were all very, very much gentlemen, and they weren't trying to be big shots, and they weren't trying to be hard, and they weren't trying to be anything other than very, very pleasant.
Sure.
Because real men don't need to do that.
No, that's absolutely
is what he was saying.
That's absolutely right.
How about this from James, who says Premier League money now means that clubs are spending 50 million on a player that would have been 10 million 5 years ago.
Yeah, well,
that's just
true.
Inflation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is inflation. Yeah, that's absolutely true. You know, if Lukaku goes goes anywhere, back to Chelsea or goes to Manchester United, Everton make an immediate profit of £72 million on 3-season buy.
Right.
So that's not bad at all.
And they've just got 27 million, haven't they, from the prize money pot from the Premier League, which we're going to talk about in the next hour.
Yes, that's
because
right.
some of the money that's being given out now to teams is actually higher. I think, in fact, Sunderland got more money this season than Leicester got last season.
They did.
By a small margin.
Yeah, they did.
Which just tells you how much money there is swilling around.
Well, that's because this is the end of the first season of the new TV deal, when all the money sort of took another huge bounce up.
Right.
And the spiral of inflation in football doesn't look as though it's going to stop, does it?
Yeah.
Everywhere else, there seems to be, austerity and cutbacks and all that kind of stuff, but there certainly isn't in football. It's still one of the most buoyant industries in the world, and very, very important, I say, to the economy of this country.
Well, it certainly is.
Yeah.
It certainly is that. 08717 2233 We'll take more of your calls coming up in the next hour. This is talkSPORT. Good morning, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to Two Mikes on talkSPORT. It's Porky quiz day today, of course, and because it's the Champions League final this weekend down in Wales, we're going to be doing it on the Champions League.
That's right.
Not just the Champions League final, not just the European Cup and the Champions League, just the Champions League.
That's right.
So I hope your knowledge is very, very much up to speed.
My knowledge is very good. How many Champions League finals have you been to?
I've been to one.
Yeah, but that was as a freeloader, wasn't it?
It wasn't actually. No, I was. What I did when I was at that particular Champions League final at Hampden Park, Real Madrid.
I went to that one
against Bayer Leverkusen when Zinedine Zidane scored that amazing goal.
Right.
It was the first time I used a laptop to look at all the pictures that were coming in and chose the picture for the front page.
Really?
From the stadium.
You were the editor of the Scottish Mirror?
I was, yeah, and it was the first time I was able to do that technologically, because it was the first time that we'd sort of got the technology to do something as brilliant as that. And what a fantastic...
We have the technology.
Well, it was amazing, because just as the game was finishing and they were being paraded around with the cup, I was actually choosing the picture and designing the front page live sitting there.
Are we all supposed to stand back in amazement at your skill as a newspaper
I merely
editor,
answered the question because you put it to me that
perhaps
I was
you'll
there.
Get good at broadcasting one of these days.
Maybe I will, but I won't learn anything from you, though, will I?
That's
a man who can't pronounce anything.
Hey.
But, I have to say, and the only reason I said that was because you accused me of freeloading. And because you've been to, how many have you been to?
4.
I imagine you were probably more freeloading than working at all of those.
No, I wasn't.
Really? Were you commentating, were you?
I was part of the team
that
were doing the surrounding programmes to the Champions League.
Yeah, well,
we had commentary, obviously, but I did the show beforehand. I did the show the following morning.
Right.
This was all in Rome.
Oh, yeah.
With old Nick, what's his name? He used to be a colleague here.
Nick, what's his name? NRP?
NRP, that's a
Nick
boy.
Rostron Pike.
Nick Rostron Pike, and in fact it was Nick Rostron Pike.
Isn't he the guy you fell down the hill with?
Well, he witnessed me fall off the mountain to try and get into the stadium.
It wasn't a mountain, it was a hill, wasn't
it was a huge incline at the edge of a cliff because... old Berlusconi turned up and he'd ordered all the roads to be closed off.
Well, he was the president of Italy.
He was, at the time, yeah. So his motorcade could be driven right up to the door of the stadium.
Right.
So that meant the roads that we were due to take to get round the other side of the stadium were all closed off.
Right.
So I had to go through a forest, and I fell.
A forest?
Yeah, I fell over.
You make it sound as if it was in the middle of nowhere. This stadium.
It's on the edge of. It's the Olympic Stadium in Rome. It's on the edge of the city. And the other weird thing is, I know they put down red carpets for when people go to film premieres in Leicester Square, and even in Rome and in Milan at the La Scala and all that kind of stuff.
Have you ever walked down a red carpet?
Probably.
I bet you haven't.
Probably.
No, I bet you haven't.
But,
no, what do you mean probably? If you ever had, you would never stop talking about it.
Berlusconi ordered red carpets on the road for his cars. Never mind.
Well, I'm sure he did.
Never mind the entrance to the
when you're the
stadium.
president of a country, you can do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
A bit like Mr. Trump.
Yeah. Anyway,
now, let me read you a couple of tweets that have come in.
There's a lot of response here from United fans.
A lot of response, yeah. As a United fan, says Damon, I'd want a proven Premier League striker to lead the line. I'd be going all out for Lukaku or Kane over Lacazette. And I think Dan says this. I think replacing Ibra just means replacing his goals rather than looking for a like-for-like player. As I said to you, I don't think you can replace Ibrahimovic. There isn't another player like him.
No, I kind of totally agree with that, because I said, didn't I, a few minutes ago, Jose had to change all his thinking. But the issue really for United is Lukaku good enough? Because some people are being quite unkind, really, and saying that there's one tweet here which says Lukaku can't head a ball. Well, he can. He can't challenge in the area. Yes, he can. Can't score against bigger teams. Well, statistically...
Well, there was that statistic, was there not, this season, that if you took away all of Lukaku's goals that he scored for Everton in the league, they would still be seventh.
Yeah, but I mean, that's you can do anything with statistics, can't you? Damn
can't.
statistics.
No,
yes,
I've always said to you, and you've always differed from me on this, that Lukaku doesn't score important goals. He scores a lot of goals in games where the goal, even if it's one goal, it wasn't the winning goal, it wasn't the first goal. It just wasn't a goal that mattered that much.
Yes. Well, I think they might end up with Lukaku. I wonder if the Manchester United fans are going to be happy with Lukaku.
Yeah.
I've been accused of not emphasising his name as efficiently as I used to, because there's a thought that he might be leaving Everton.
You must be very torn at this moment in time, because when John Stones was being courted by Chelsea, you were being very, very full of yourself, saying, Chelsea are not going to get him, singing money can't buy me Stones, that kind of thing.
That's right.
When it became clear that he was going to go to Manchester City, you immediately just kind of deserted him.
Well, of course you do.
And you started calling him a player that wouldn't get any better, and a player who has in fact now got worse.
Well, of course you do, because if a player no longer has his heart in your club, then you want him to leave, and I think he should. Now, one controversial point of view about Lukaku, which I should put out to the Manchester United fans, who I can assure you're getting a quality player, and for £100 million you should. If he goes there, I don't want him to go, but you have to address the possible. And one controversial view is that actually the rest of the Everton team, needed to up their game to play to Lukaku's
strengths.
Well, not strength, ability, up to Lukaku's ability, rather than the other way around, you know?
Right.
And that when he did get an opportunity, when Ross Barkley was on fire, when Schneiderlin...
When was that?
All the way through last season.
Are you sure?
Was
that why Koeman dropped him? Koeman dropped him.
Koeman didn't drop him.
He did.
He encouraged him with tactical substitutions.
I mean, you are the master of reinvention of history.
No, I'm not.
How about this? It's very timely, this one. It's coming from Percy. He said, I'm listening to an old podcast from July 2016.
Why? Why would you do that?
Because he's checking up on some of the things you've said in the past.
Yeah.
And he said, Porky said this, Conte will be useless, Moyes was a perfect fit for Sunderland, and Big Sam was great for England.
Yes.
That's a triple whammy of absolute.
Well, hang on, Big Sam was
dross,
great for England. It's generally accepted now that the FA overreacted.
No, it's not at all generally accepted.
I mean,
absolutely not.
David Moyes was a perfect fit for Sunderland. It's just that
going down.
Well,
they're both going down.
Well, no, I was about to say Sunderland wasn't a perfect fit for him, and I never said Conte would be useless.
You're telling me that Percy's lying, are you?
No.
He's listening to a podcast that we made in July 2016.
I don't know why people have got nothing better to do than go back and listen to podcasts from July 2016. The world has moved on.
Yeah, okay? Well, maybe they don't like listening to what you're currently saying, or they're checking up on what you're saying in the past in order to see what the future holds.
That's a bit harsh, and something.
Rowan says this: only Porky can turn falling over into going through a forest and falling off the edge of a cliff.
Well, no, what happened was, I'm telling you, he had to go on a road round the back of the Olympic Stadium.
You've already told the story about a million times.
And there was a fence at the edge of the road. And I said, look, Nick, if we take this road right up and back down again through the side of the stadium,
listen, it's going to take us
40 minutes.
I've had the misfortune of following you around stadiums, right?
Yes.
And your sense of direction is worse than if you literally had no head.
Yeah.
You have no sense of direction whatsoever. You're staggering around Wembley for about 2 hours trying to find the commentary booth that you claimed to have been in before.
I was due back on air and I wasn't going to make it in time if I hadn't taken drastic action. So I climbed over the fence and tried to climb down.
You also couldn't find your way to West Ham's ground a few weeks ago. I had to direct you there as well.
That's not true at all.
It's absolutely true.
The other Champions League finals I went to, France in Paris, Arsene Wenger.
Oh, the Arsenal-Barcelona one.
And who got sent off in that? Was it the goalkeeper?
Well, you were there.
Yeah, I know it was. Yeah,
what are you asking me for?
I'm trying to remember now. Was it goal?
Yeah. I don't want to give anything away because I don't know what the quiz questions are going to be like.
I'm trying to remember. Was it...
Have you seen the time, by the way?
Sol
Have you got any sense of time?
And Russia.
Any sense?
Russia, the classic one.
Have you heard what I said?
Yes, I know. Ronaldo scored in... Now, that's one of 4 Champions League finals Ronaldo will have played in by tomorrow night, right?
Yeah.
And then, where's the other one? Hampden. Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
You finished?
Yes.
This is talkSPORT. The Two Mics on talkSPORT with Wicks. Right now there's 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care. Now, I don't know whether you are one of these people that worries too much about health and safety. I've never really seen much evidence of that, I have to say. I mean, we quite often work at different times here at talkSPORT, and I've never seen you being particularly aware of the health and safety infractions that you may or may not be, breaking, laws that you might be breaking, because apparently having a beard is a danger.
Beard is danger.
Yeah, and you've had a beard most of your life, haven't you?
Well, ever since I was about 20.
Ever since you were about 20?
Yeah, I had to grow a beard because I was playing away from home and my girlfriend wanted to know why I hadn't had a shave the following morning at work.
What?
That's the way it came about.
What do you mean?
Well, I'd gone the night before. Yeah. I'd gone home with somebody who wasn't my girlfriend.
By the way. Yes, family, okay.
Yeah, and I met her the next lunchtime.
Yes.
Straight from work.
Right. What, your girlfriend?
Yeah, that's right.
She was a secretary. What a surprise.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And I was a budding young reporter. And she said, well, haven't you had a shave?
Yes.
And I immediately, because
instead of saying you hadn't got home, you said that you were growing a beard.
Yeah, with rat-like cunning.
And that's why you've had a beard all these years.
That's right.
Ever since.
Yes, that's right.
From the age of 19.
Yes, that's right, yeah. And
why didn't you just say you didn't have time to shave that morning?
I don't know. I just
you didn't live with her?
No, I didn't live with her, no.
So your entire life and your look and everything else has been built on a lie. Well, that is actually very, very, very shocking to me.
No, not really a lie. I mean, it was just an instinctive reaction. But it stuck. And then people said I looked really good with a beard, so I kept it, yeah. Right. I got lots of compliments.
Really?
Why are you talking about this?
Well, apparently there's a social housing firm, right, called Mears Group, and they've basically told all of their workers, their construction workers, that they can't grow beards.
Really?
Because beards, I mean, you still see more and more beards every day now because it's become quite trendy.
Well, but they're not beards anymore. They're just 3 days of growth. Isn't it designer stubble?
Well, no, designer stubble was back in the 90s, I think you'll find.
No, I don't think it was. I think it's still now.
I mean, I think it was last year when they had the longer, bushy type beards that you would see all the, the hipsters wearing in Hoxton and Hackney and all those kind of places. But this is apparently now becoming a problem because health and safety say that if you have to wear a dust mask at work, right, which you don't have to wear because you don't work in a construction environment, then you can't have a beard.
Sometimes.
Well, then maybe you should.
I sometimes have to have things, done.
When was the last time you wore a dust mask?
Probably when I was helping plan the National Football Museum.
The National Football Museum? Yeah, the thing that was absolutely and utterly hopeless with the wrong end of a horse.
That wasn't my fault, mate, but we had to build it. Yeah, well, actually, you had to wear a hard hat to even go in there.
Yeah, well, apparently, according to this, right, facial hair is a health and safety risk because you can't get the dust mask on properly.
Right.
And that means that you might actually inhale some toxic substances.
Really?
Yeah, when you're walking around a construction site. And so the union are up in arms about it because Unite are saying the arrogance is hair-raising. This is a delicate delicate issue which has huge cultural, religious and personal issues.
Yeah.
Sensitivity should be the watchword. So they're saying, basically, for example, a Sikh man might have a beard that he can't shave off.
Yes.
A Muslim man might have a beard that he can't shave off. So it's not really very fair to make people take the beards off. But if they want to work in this construction business, then surely that's what they have to do.
I think, honestly, in most cases, I don't think a beard is appropriate or acceptable in most professions. I really don't. I mean, I know why I've got a beard.
You see more and more footballers with beards, for example, don't you?
No, you don't.
Yes, you do.
Name one.
Giroud's got a beard, hasn't he?
Who?
Giroud, plays for Arsenal.
Giroud, yeah, no, Giroud is, yeah. Oh, he has, yeah, he's got a full beard.
He's got a beard.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. But There's
quite a few Spanish players have got beards. You'll see some tomorrow night at the Champions League final.
But I mean, but they're footballers.
Joe Allen had a beard, didn't he?
Joe Allen, did he have a beard? Yeah, I don't know. He might have done.
There's Joe Ledley who had that massive beard.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so you want me to name any more footballers that have got beards?
No, because I'm not interested in footballers. What I'm saying is, in this context,
you just told me footballers didn't have beards.
What I was going to say to you was, I think in most professional professions, so like law and surveying and advertising industry, medicine in particular. Yeah,
you don't see many dentists with beards, do you?
I've never seen a dentist with a beard.
No.
But I've never been looking for one, to be honest. And in the media and all that, beards I think now are inappropriate. When I was
well, why have you got one?
Well, I know the reasons why I've got it, and as a young man,
no, you've got one because it's based on a lie.
No, it's because
you once cheated on your girlfriend when you were 19.
No.
And ever since then, you've had a beard.
No.
About 6 decades later.
That's not the case. But to be honest, I quite agree with this. I think beards can be slovenly and a nuisance and all that kind of stuff. And
I would have thought if you're working in a dusty construction site, it's not very it's not very pleasant to have a beard because it would get all dusty.
I would have it taken off. And whenever I go abroad to really hot places, I tend to shave it off because it is, it's like a weight around your face.
Went to Mallorca last year, which was very hot.
Yeah, I was only there for a day with you.
Yeah, thank goodness for that. I had to shave it off for that.
I had to come and prop up the old Two Mike's Empire.
Yeah.
So I had to get out there quick and get back quick. But I went to St. Lucia once. And I shaved it off completely.
Did you?
Yeah, I did, yeah. And
I can't imagine what you'd look like without a beard.
Well, strange. I mean,
you look pretty strange with it, to be honest.
And it looked strange to me because I looked in the mirror and I thought, that's a face I haven't seen for sort of, 30 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's one thing you have to do. But I don't blame them for doing this. And in many areas of life, I think hirsuteness is not a good thing.
No, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And would you prefer to be the only person in the world with a beard?
No,
so you look different? Is that what you're
not really. Not really. It doesn't matter these days because I'm now known as more as the silver fox than
You're known
else.
as the silver fox?
Well, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I don't think anyone calls you that. I think anyone knows you as that.
No, I think they do. So, look, I wouldn't get too worked up about that. But
really?
I think it's a good thing, and I would defend that boss's right. I defend the right of any boss who's running a business to dictate what he wants his workers to look like and how to behave and how to act and how to dress.
I've got a text here from someone who says his brother worked for the Mears Group in London and he grew a beard. So he's casting doubt on whether we got this story right. Well, I can tell you we got the story right because one, it is being not only is it being reported in various outlets of the news, but it's also being commented on by Mark Suave from the union Unite.
Yeah.
So I'm sure Unite would not be getting all worked up and getting their a beard in a bit of a mix.
I totally agree.
For the fact that it happened.
I totally agree. It's a very cruel text here. It's from Andy.
Oh yeah.
He says he's in the Peaks. Is that the Peak District?
That would be the Peak District. Yeah.
And he says. Old Porky at the Paris final, eh? Who got sent off? So it isn't just Bonnie Tyler who was lost in France.
No, that's very true.
That's very true.
And there's another one here from Dave who says, how tall was this fence you climbed, Porky? 3 feet.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was only 3 feet.
Mountain plank.
It was a little fence at the edge of the road to stop people falling into the valley below. You see what I mean?
Well, 3 feet's not really much of a fence, is it?
It was just to show that there was a border there, to be honest. It wasn't, people weren't supposed to fall over it or anything like that.
Right.
They were just supposed to know it was the edge of the road, OK? One here, it says, the quote of the day so far, Old Porky, with rat-like cunning.
Yes.
I lied. Well, no, I didn't. Rat-like cunning, I had to sort of replace the truth.
Well, exactly right. Now, of course, the number you're going to call us on is 08717 223344. You can tweet us at the 2 Mikes. Don't forget, coming up a little bit later on, we shall be talking about the Champions League final. We're doing a Porky quiz on it as well. We actually filmed that and put it on Facebook
We will,
Live,
yeah.
So you can watch it at the same time. Also, of course, we'll be going down under to New Zealand to catch up with Andrew McKenna.
Absolutely.
To find out what the situation is with the Lions, how the camp is, how the feeling is. It's the first game, of course. They're all live on talkSPORT, and the first game is tomorrow. And we'll bring you details coming up next.
Yep.
umpire blows the whistle, and those wearing the red of the British and Irish Lions raise their arms in celebration. They have won the series.
I'm incredibly excited. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think we've got the ability to go to New Zealand and win, and a group of talented players with some exciting players with some experience as well.
What we've got here is the opportunity to bring together the best players from 4 different countries and bring all their strengths into one team, and I think that's going to be very important.
Owen Farrell has joined the party, and Owen Farrell cuts inside, and Owen Farrell has a try. He gives it to Halfpenny. Halfpenny goes through. He gives it inside to Sexton, and he sails through a gap and puts the hammer down. And Stuart Hogg has scored a try. Beats the first, beats the second. He's over the 10-metre line. He's going towards the 22. He beats the fullback. He's going to the corner. George North scores the try. The Lions go into the lead. And the Test series is underway, live and exclusively here on talkSPORT.
First game gets underway, of course, tomorrow morning right here live on talkSPORT. Provincial Barbarians against the Lions. Let's talk now to Andrew McKenna, talkSPORT's very own man down in New Zealand. Andrew, very good morning to you.
Morning, chaps. How are we?
Very well indeed. Very
thank
well
you.
indeed. How are you finding New Zealand? I imagine you've been there before, but what's it like?
Well, the last couple of days have been absolutely glorious. Clear blue skies and fabulous in Auckland. And today we've driven 2 hours north in Whangarei in the absolute pouring rain. It's been non-stop all day. And let's just say it has quite literally put a dampener on things. It's not quite as attractive as it might have been. We're led to believe tomorrow we're going to have really heavy rain up till about lunchtime. And then from then on in, it's dry. So in terms of the playing conditions, should all be fine, because of course it's a morning kick-off for you, an evening kick-off here, so by the time that game time comes around, should all be fine.
Absolutely. Now, Andrew, tell me your view, please, on this controversial issue regarding how many times the haka should be played out by the opposition during this particular tour. For years, it's irritated me that the haka's even allowed to take place, and successive England captains, haven't they, going right the way back to Will Carling, never knew how to handle it, but now it's losing its impact, isn't it, if it's done every time?
Well, it's not actually happening tomorrow. This is a bit of a surprise. There's not going to be a haka ahead of tomorrow's game. Instead, there will be a challenge laid down, so it's slightly different. But, of course, what you have to remember, Mike, is there are different versions of the haka.
Yeah, but do the opposition appreciate that? Isn't it a haka as far as the opposition are concerned?
Well, bearing in mind you've got Warren Gatland, who is a New Zealander, as head coach.
Yes.
He has been talking about this with the players and just saying, look, it's just a challenge being laid down. We stand up, we respect it, and then we move on and we get on with the game. He's really trying to sort of play it down by sort of saying, look, don't get wound up by this. You've got 23 blokes out there in the opposition shirts. They're the ones to get worried about. Don't worry about the haka at all.
And what about the team selection for the first game? Because, I mean, how important is that in terms of whether Warren Gatland's going to try some things out or try some combinations out? I've heard talk of, having an all-Irish sort of section or maybe an all-Welsh section. How's that going to go?
Very interesting, this, because there were some of the players he couldn't start in this game because they were playing in the Premiership final or the Pro 12 final last weekend, so they were effectively unavailable for this. So the side largely picked itself. But what you do have is some combinations in there, in the fact that you've got a Welsh back row, 6, 7 and 8, Moriarty, Warburton and Faletau. You've got an Irish hooker, throw into an Irish second row, and you've got 2 English centres with an English winger outside them. You've got a Scottish fullback with a Scottish winger on the left side. Now, what was very interesting was on the talkSPORT show yesterday, John Taylor, the former Lions flanker, was speaking with Russ Hargreaves, and he made the point, why have so many tried and trusted combinations? The point being, we talk about this all the time, there's so few warm-up games, why not try things you don't know whether they work or not, which is a really interesting point of view, because a lot of people have been saying, well, it makes a lot of sense to start with these combinations, go with the tried and trusted. And John was saying, well, actually, I'd go the other way, because what's the point in going with the tried and trusted? Because you know that already.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, I mean, in terms of the team they're playing against, I mean, what are they facing? I mean, we've seen in the past, certainly, I think it was the Lions tour with Martin Johnson at the helm of it. They had some pretty rough early games, didn't they? And quite a lot of violence was handed out to them.
Yeah, Warren Gatland said in his press conference he doesn't think this is going to result in anything going beyond the line. Essentially, the feeling can be that some of these players of lesser standing, if you like, try to make a name for themselves, maybe try and take a couple of the Lions Tories out. Certainly Warren Gatland's not expecting that. In terms of the opposition, the Provincial Barbarians are basically players pulled together from all over New Zealand and made into a side. Now, they are pretty young. Some of them have Super Rugby experience, the equivalent of, say, the Premiership or the Pro 12 up in at home. Only 3 of the starting 15, though, are over the age of 25. So they are pretty young. They do have some experience. So, in other words, what we're saying is we're probably looking at the Lions to be scoring maybe 50 or 60 in this. Certainly talking to the guys in and around the Provincial Barbarians, their hope, their target is to score double figures points. So we should be looking at a fairly comfortable Lions winning the game. But, of course, what we should get and what we actually get sometimes are different things. So that's the target for the Lions anyway.
OK, now that's on the pitch. Andrew, what about off the pitch? Because I was reading some fascinating stuff over the last couple of days about the Sir Clive Woodward tour, OK?
Yes.
When it was the most shambolic organisation possible, when you had groups of players from all the individual countries in the British and Irish Lions who wanted to play their own systems and were being told to play a different system at a few days' notice. But one of the main pieces I picked out of it was that Alistair Campbell, who was taken down there as, the great PR chief and all this kind of stuff, apparently addressed the players after their first defeat and told them how useless they were, comparing their attitude to the game with SAS soldiers that Tony Blair had sent into battle in Bosnia, and this is what they had to adopt. And apparently it was a shocking mess. Now, off the field, I hope there's a little bit more unity within the squad this time than there was then.
Let's just say 2005 was quite probably the lowest point in Lions rugby history. It got off to an incredibly bad start and, frankly, didn't get a great deal better. Sir Clive actually tried a few things that he was totally ridiculed for. He took 45 players on that tour, but the big mistake he made was from day one, he split them into 2 groups. So some of them were playing the midweek games, some of them were playing the weekends, and therefore would be the test match players later on. And of course, if you tell a sportsman straight away from the get-go, he's not going to be featuring in the big games, well, you know what's going to happen. They're going to lose interest, they're not going to put it in. So actually, Clive Woodward took 45 on that tour and got ridiculed for the numbers. Warren Gatland's brought 41 on this. Because of the way the game's gone. So actually, Sir Clive wasn't a million miles off, but the key thing is Warren Gatland has said, we will not be splitting in 2. That is absolutely not happening. And you can sense that. Today was a big day for the players. 18 of them have been on community visits, going to schools, to
I thought you were going to say
colleges.
community service there for a minute.
Well, yeah, it is exactly that. But that is a key part of touring, to go out into the community. Yeah. And you've got players who are, for instance, today, up here in Whangarei, you had James Haskell and Jack Knoll. Well, that's James Haskell of Wasps and Jack Knoll of Exeter, who last Saturday at Twickenham, were going at each other in the Premiership final, with 2 sides clumping lumps out of each other for 100 minutes as it went to extra time. Well, a week later, they're in New Zealand and they're teammates. That's what you have to kind of deal with. You have to bring in a group of people and get them to knit together. And certainly, from the outside, the impression we're getting is that at the moment it is all good. And the singing, you've probably heard the stories about the choirs that they've been forming. That is having a big, big effect. Because, as you well know, gents, the chances of getting a Scotsman to sing an English song
or a Welsh
somewhere
song.
Exactly. Somewhere between slim and none. Yes. But actually, you've got 41 guys all buying in. So I think it's a really good idea. It's a good icebreaker.
OK, and have you got a PR Supremo there that you're battling with day in, day out, Andrew?
Thankfully, no. The Lions press team are... to deal with for this tour than Mr. Campbell was 12 years ago.
The final question has to be about the talkSPORT team and how that's all going.
Yes, how's that going?
There's an interesting collection of personalities in it as ever. It's early days, isn't it?
It's the most disparate group of people you could ever possibly imagine and ever put together. It's so rock and roll. This evening, I cooked spaghetti bolognese and we had a quiet sort of chat amongst ourselves. That's just how rock and roll we are, gents.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you've got to be up, I suppose, all hours of the day and night, so we can forgive you for that. Well, Andrew, listen, we're looking forward to it. The first game up tomorrow right here on talkSPORT, of course. It is the Provincial Barbarians against the Lions. Here's one from Richard in Wrexham, who sent in a text, 81089. I've got the solutions to the New Zealand hacker. Send Porky Parry to stand in front of them, facing them off. Scariest thing on the planet.
That's very nice, isn't it?
The bearded weirdo, as some people are calling him.
Yeah, mind you, he's from Wrexham.
Yeah, well, don't be too harsh on Wrexham.
I'm not going to be too harsh on Wrexham, but I know the sort of people who come from Wrexham. Used to live near there.
It's your neck of the woods, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is talkSPORT.
OK, folks, now, just in case you haven't noticed, this is the Two Mics. We are on talkSPORT. We are with Wix. Now, right now, there's a three for two across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care.
A couple of people reminding us that Lionel Messi has a beard,
of
by
course.
the way. Also, Ryan is tweeted in. He says, I'm a painter and decorator who works on sites all the time, and I have a full beard.
Right.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Don't you get paint in your beard? I bet you do.
Yeah, I would imagine you do.
Of course you will,
actually.
because splattering of paint and coming off the wall and all that kind of stuff. I think that's a rather foolish practice, to be honest.
Yeah, well, very possibly so. Jane says, I'm now known as the Silver Fox. By whom, she says?
Yeah.
Oh, yes, himself, every time he looks in the mirror.
Yeah, that's very nice, isn't it?
No,
also, I mean, people do refer to me as that.
Becky says, from New Zealand, beards are inappropriate, says the man with the beard.
Yeah, well, it's inappropriate in certain, certain professions. I think if I was interviewing somebody for a job these days that came with a beard, I would think that's presumptuous.
Really?
People should be actually clean-shaven when they present themselves to new employers.
I think if you didn't give someone a job because they had a beard, they'd probably sue you.
Well, you'd never say that, would you? But, I mean, what I'm saying is my beard is historical, and I was known for it in Fleet Street.
It's hysterical in some ways.
Historical. And I was known for it in Fleet Street, so it was never a problem. But I don't think it's appropriate in a lot of professions, and the medical profession's one as well.
Yeah, OK. Well, listen, we're going to be talking to somebody who's in a very interesting profession, actually, because today is, believe it or not, National Fish and Chip Day. Now, as I said earlier, for you, every Friday is National Fish and Chip Day, because I'm sure later on today you will be going to have some fish and chips. We're going to talk now, though, to John Rutherford, who is at the Frozen Sea Fillets Association, incredibly, and we're going to find out from him what Fish and Chip Day is all about. John, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, hi.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed for joining
us.
And we often complain these days that every single day there's some national day or other, but National Fish and Chip Day sounds worth having to me.
Absolutely, and what else could you do in half-term here in the UK? School children everywhere enjoying the holidays. Let's finish them off on fish and chips.
Yeah, exactly right. Now, tell us about the Frozen at Sea Fillets Association. What is that?
Well, it's a little group of people in the UK that consists of those people who catch it in the North Atlantic, and they will be Icelandic, Russian, Faroese, Norwegian, and they're fishing in the very far north in the Barents Sea and catching the fish. But unusually and perhaps uniquely, they're not simply catching it, but they're filleting the fish at sea and freezing it. So the fish is frozen, just like they used to say about peas that were fresh at the moment when the pod went pop. It's frozen within 4 or 5 hours of the fish coming out the water. So it's all the freshness is frozen in, and then it's distributed directly into the UK and to fish and chip shops. And so they'll be defrosting it really the night before that you're eating it. So you're eating really, really fresh fish, and that's how it's so good. Now that's what the FASFAs are all about. But to bring together all those people and make sure that people who want fresh fish understand it, understand the sustainability issues, understand the technical issues, understand the health issues, and actually understand how much fun it is. And the Fish and Chip Day is to make sure that everybody has a chance to really enjoy fish and chips.
That's absolutely brilliant. Now, I'm a huge fan of fish and chips, John. My colleague here, Mr. Graham, is absolutely right. I might have 2 portions today. Well, I won't actually, because the last time I had 2 portions, I had one at 11 o'clock for lunch and then one at 8 o'clock in the evening because I was working, and fish and chips is so easily accessible. But I want to put this stat to you, John. There are 10,500 fish and chip shops in the UK at the moment. 90 years ago, so you're going back right to the start of our century, there were 35,000. Now, how has the fish industry managed to cope with the influx of all sorts of alternative food? Pizza takeaway, Chinese takeaway, Indian takeaway. I mean, you've done very, very well to still be a major industry.
Thank you very much indeed. And, of course, the thing is that fish and chips is the iconic British meal. And so the statistics that you're talking about still show that more people will prefer fish and chips than all of the others. But we are a very, very different nation than we were 100 years ago. And so we have so many different opportunities, so many different foodstuffs available to us, and so many different tastes and so many different textures. But there's times when nothing hits the spot quite like fish and chips.
Now, when you do your frozen at sea filleted fish situations in the North Sea and wherever else you get the fish
these must be on fish factories, are they?
Yeah, well, they're sort of fish factory ships, I suppose.
Right, yeah.
But is that the stuff that?
That's just it. And the extraordinary thing is, you really have the most modern equipment that you might see in a factory, say in Grimsby or in Bremerhaven or somewhere else in Europe.
Right.
And
but
those same machines have been installed in the fishing boat.
Wow.
So you've got all the modern day technical equipment you need to find and catch fish, doubled up with the processing. And of course, the result of that is that what they're storing is the end product. It's just the fillet. And in many cases, these boats will also have a fish meal factory, so that all these skeletons and all the bits and pieces of fish that you don't want for eating, you can process in. So there's absolutely no waste.
So what I was going to ask you, John, is whether the stuff that you're freezing in on these ships, is that what ends up in the chippy, as it were?
Yeah, absolutely. And you can follow it through. I mean, we have a website, and we've recently produced a film with the help of Seafish on that, and it follows it through literally from the boat right the way through the factories to a fish and chip shop. So you can imagine it. You can see the fish coming through a processing system where the flesh is cut off the skeleton, and that flesh is then put into boxes, and those each perhaps portion of fish will have a piece of greaseproof paper separated from the other one, and then they'll be immediately frozen at a very, very, very low temperature, and they'll be kept at something like -20, -22 degrees centigrade on the boat, and all the way through the distribution right into the fish and chip shop. And then, as I say, the fish and chip shop owner will open the box, normally the night before, and take out those individual portions that he wants and carefully defrost them. So, wham, you've got fish that, to all intents and purposes, was caught yesterday afternoon when you eat fish and chips.
That's brilliant. Now, you're clearly an expert on this, John, so I'm going to put a situation to you that bothers me a bit about fish and chips. There are some fish and chip shops I go to, and I live down in Stockbroker Belt, Surrey, quality places.
He doesn't actually. He lives just in Surrey.
And I can tell you, the way they do the fish in the batter is beautiful, and you get a light, soft batter on the fish. There are other places I go to, and they take a fish out of the hot cabinet or whatever, and it's crusty batter.
Been in there too long, then, isn't it?
Well, it's crusty batter. There's too much of it, and there's too little fish inside what I would call the batter case. Now, do you not think that we should educate our fish and chip proprietors to make have a uniform way of putting as little batter on the fish as possible?
Absolutely, and that's very important because fish and chips is a healthy product. It's a natural product, but like all these things, you are dealing with frying mediums and fats of various sorts. And if you don't cook them properly and eat them freshly, then you can end up with a product which is
rubbish.
Which you don't want to eat twice a day, 7 days a week. You really don't.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of.
There are 1,500 fish and chip shops, and there are very good organisations like the National Federation of Fish Fryers and like the Seafish Industry Authority and ourselves, all working together and really sponsoring a day like today with the National Edible Oils Distributors Association.
Ah, the edible oils. You're absolutely right there.
So, John, I presume, John.
And you're absolutely right.
Sorry, John.
Sorry, calm down.
Just let him get a word in here, John, please.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, John, are you off for a fish and chip lunch? I mean, that was going to be my last question to you.
Well, I should be, shouldn't I? But actually, where we live, we have a lovely little fish delivery man called Tommy, who brings
Tommy.
So today, it's fresh longostine and fresh squid.
Oh, very nice.
The kids will have fish and chips before they go home on Sunday, though.
Excellent stuff.
Well,
no, John,
hang on, John, before you go. I want you to support a campaign that I'm mindful to start, John, fish and chip inspectors, because they no, you should have a team of fish and chip inspectors who should...
Doing it.
Who's going to pay them?
Look at the National Federation of Fish Fryers. Look at their quality award.
Yes.
They have got fish and chip inspectors. Every fish and shop will be inspected already from a hygiene point of view. But in terms of quality, look for ones displaying the NFFF Quality Award, and you will have that top 10% fish and chip product.
That's brilliant. What's that called again?
The National Federation of Fish Fryers.
No, the award. What's the award?
It's the NFFF.
The NFFF
Award.
Great, because
it's the National Association of Fish
Fish
Fryers.
Shop displaying that. It'll have the year.
Yeah.
It's like the Egon Ronay guide. It'll say 2017 if they got a current one.
Yes.
And you will be getting fish and chips from one of the top 10% fish and chip shops in the country.
These fish and chip inspectors you go in. If there's too much batter on the fish,
to John. John, listen, thank you very much indeed. Enjoy your longestine. Yeah. That's a very nice thing to eat as well.
If there's too much batter on the fish, they should close it down. Well, they should ban them. Say 3-day ban.
What I was going to say, I mean, between you and him, I was lucky to get a word in at all there. He's even worse than you. But I'm a big fan of. I used to go to a place in Linlithgow in Scotland where you could have a choice. You could have a choice of batter or breaded fish.
Oh, okay.
And actually, that was really good because I prefer the breaded fish, to be honest.
I like breaded when it's plaice.
Yeah.
And I like batter when it's cod.
Do you?
Or hake or whatever it's called. What is it? Haddock. Haddock. That's right.
Haddock.
Yeah.
You can get hake as well.
Can you? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You don't know much about fish, really, do you?
I do. I
eat so much of it. Anyway, we'll talk some more about National Fish and Chip Day because believe it or not, curry sauce is the most popular accompaniment for young people.
No, it can't be. Can't be.
I'm not joking.
Can't be.
This is talkSPORT. Now, these guys have got what you would call proper beards.
Absolutely. Right? And spinning guitars.
Indeed. Yeah. And you know, of course, that the guy who's called Frank Beard is the one that doesn't have a beard.
Oh, is
He's the drummer,
And what are these two called? These two brothers?
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called.
The brothers. But ZZ Brothers.
The ZZ Top is the name of the
band.
Do
you remember the great video they made with this song? And it was all those lovely girls with long legs.
Yeah, never mind that. Well, the song's called Legs,
yeah. Exactly.
Dazza says this, to beard or not to beard, that is the question. 1, shave it off and look 20 years younger. Yeah. Or 2, keep it on and stay smelly like Mike Parry. That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
That's really harsh.
Now, we're going to talk to Greg here, who's a Man United fan, because he's been in Cardiff, which is obviously the city of note this weekend, because that's where the Champions League's being played. Yeah. And he's going to tell us about beards. Greg, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. I've got a question for the Porkmeister.
Have you?
Yes, go on then, mate.
Go on.
I'd like to know if the Porkmeister, being beards are the topic, if he knows the 2 sports where you are not allowed to sport a beard.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't, but I'm going to work it out logically, right? I'm logically right because I'm smarter than the average bear.
Here we go.
Right. If it is a sport, then wrestling must be included, so you can't grab your opponent's beard, right?
Well, that's wrong.
What do you mean that's wrong? I've never seen a wrestler with a beard.
What about swimming?
Have another totally random guess.
Yeah, it's not a random guess. I'm working it out logically.
I'm going to guess swimming. What about that?
Swimming? Yeah, well, you got none out of 2.
Okay.
Right. Hang on. Right. I've only guessed one. So I've only guessed one, and mine wasn't a guess. Go. Right. The second one. Yeah. The second one is going to be because of the danger of interaction. Fencing. No, I'm serious. Fencing.
You were closer with your first guess.
No, because you have to put an épée on, don't you?
Well, no, the épée is the thing at the end of the sword, isn't it?
No, what's the face mask?
You mean a visor?
Visor, yeah, that's right, yeah. OK, come on then, smarty pants. Tell us what they are.
Tell us what the 2 sports are where you can't wear a beard.
Well, number 1 is horse racing. Jockeys are not allowed to wear them.
Why is that?
I don't know. It's in the rules.
No, it can't be. Yeah, go on.
Secondly, well, you can look this up, Porky.
Is that national hunt jockeys or all jockeys?
I think all jockeys.
Really?
Right.
Yes, and the second sport is the Oxford and Cambridge boat race. Yeah. Because it is run under Jockey Club rules.
Is that right?
Really? But that's not a sport,
I'm sure
really.
You'll do your research and come back if I'm wrong, but I think...
No, all right. Well, listen, I'm very grateful
What do you mean
to
it's not a sport? It's an Olympic sport, rowing.
Yes, but the Oxford and Cambridge boat race
is it not a sport?
It's a once-a-year event. Doesn't happen every week,
Yeah, but what about the Henley Regatta? They also race in that.
Well, I don't know. Greg, does it apply to the Henley Regatta and Olympic rowing?
I don't know. I know it applies to the Oxford and Cambridge boat race. Yeah. But how can the Porkmeisters say that is not a sport?
Yeah, well, no, I'm not doubting
it. Well, because he's an idiot.
I've had big rows in the past with some of my very influential friends about the
the influential friends.
The worth of the Oxford-Cambridge boat race, which I'm a big supporter of. But it's a once-a-year event. But anyway, look, Greg, we are very grateful for your contribution.
Now, since you're in Cardiff, Greg, and as I said, Cardiff is the city of the moment because you've got the Champions League final. Have the fans descended on Cardiff yet? Because I remember when Glasgow had it, it was fantastic. You know, when you get the Real Madrid fans and all the rest of it mixing with the Juventus
they're there
fans.
already. It's absolute chaos.
Right.
On I think it was either Wednesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon, without any prior notice, they closed half of the access roads into the town centre.
Yeah.
And people were stuck getting out of city centre car parks for over 3 hours.
That's terrible. That's shocking.
It is chaos, but I'm hoping to pop in this afternoon to savour a bit of the atmosphere. I'm sure it'll be a fantastic occasion, and as you well know, you've been to the stadium.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic venue, and great for the city of Cardiff, I think, and they put Wales on the map because a lot of people won't have heard of Cardiff.
Yeah. Well, I think, to be fair, I think Wales put Wales on the map in the European Championships, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. Old Chris Coleman and his mates.
Well, I attended 2 of the games against Russia and Slovakia, and again, that was fantastic. And I've got to say, the fans did us proud over there.
They did.
And no trouble, and it was, great occasion. But tomorrow is the big one, I think.
Yeah. Are you going to nip down to Gareth Bale's bar?
Well,
because apparently he's going there after the game if Real Madrid win and taking
all his pals.
Taking all his pals from the team.
Are you going there?
Is he?
Yeah, supposedly.
Oh. I'm currently having a coffee with a very good friend of mine called Dean, who's a taxi driver.
Oh, yeah.
Does he know Tommy the Fishman?
No, he knows Mike Parry because he picked him up from a hotel in Cardiff a couple of years ago. He's rather bladderated as well, I believe.
No.
That must have been when we did the show down there, maybe. We did a show at the Tram Shed. Was it then?
Yes, it was. It was a few years ago, probably 4 or 5 or something.
Yeah, it was when we used to go there because the FA Cup final was there. I think it was those days, Greg, because Wembley hadn't closed. Or it could have been an international. But whatever it was, tell your mate that, I remember him as well.
No, very much doubt it.
And he was a great taxi driver and stopped spreading malicious rumours about me. Or I'll come down to Cardiff and I'll put a nail through his tyre, which I'm very experienced at doing.
Oh, I'm going to ask you about that, actually.
Okay. Well, listen, have a fantastic show. Have a good weekend and all the best.
Now, Greg, before we let you go, we're going to ask you a Man United question as well, because earlier on today we were asking the question of whether Ibrahimovic can be replaced, and if so, with whom? Given that Jose Mourinho's after all sorts of different names, who do you fancy?
Well, I've heard on the grapevine that Lukaku has been tapped up, as he's a very, very close friend of Paul Pogba's. If they were going like for like, as Mike said earlier on, I've been listening to the show for all morning, there's not many around that could be a straight replacement. Yeah. But can Mourinho likes a big centre forward like Drogba?
Yeah, it does.
Like Ibrahimovic.
Yeah,
he's either gonna have to sign someone like Lukaku, or he's gonna have to change his style. Now I don't know. And I don't know if United played any better once Ibra was injured. It was slightly different with Rashford up front. It's going to be a very, very interesting transfer window. Once they all start kicking off.
It certainly is. Now, Greg, I've got some bad news for you as well, because Stan in Walton-on-Thames has texted in to say jockeys can have beards. Pat Cosgrave had one for most of last season on the flat.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you'll have to double-check. I'm sure you'll go into the archives.
So you got it wrong, I'm afraid.
That's right, Greg. Next time you want to ring us up to give us, vital information, don't bother, OK? Thanks a lot.
Greg, down in Cardiff there. Sounds like a great place to be this weekend, of course. Amazing Porky doesn't have a journal about beards and sport, says Dazza. But we've got much more to talk about, including you getting another flat tyre, by the way.
Oh, it was a disaster.
So, do it in a minute.
Yeah.
Let's talk sport.
Yeah.
Just me and you. He gave me that good shit that make me not quit.
This is the 2 Mics on talkSPORT with Wix. Right now there's 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, including all decking and wood care. That's an Ariana Grande song.
It is, yeah.
Porky, every day, because, of course, coming up this Sunday, it's going to be the incredible concert which is being put on, which is called One Love, up at the Emirates Old Trafford Cricket Ground.
That's right.
So it'll start around 7 p.m. It's going to be live, actually, on Virgin Radio. You can hear the whole concert on the Total Access show on Virgin on Sunday.
And it's Ariana Grande, of course, who was performing just over a week ago now. We go Monday, when the was atrocious and horrible attack on those young people, young girls, and their mums at that original venue in Manchester took place. And I have to take my hat off to this young lady. She's 22, Ariana Grande. She's coming back from America and staging another show in another massive arena. And you've got to say, she deserves full marks for all
And
of
she's
that.
getting an awful lot of support from her peers. Justin Bieber's going to be there, Coldplay, Katy Perry, Miley Cyrus, Pharrell Williams, Take That, Niall Horan, Robbie Williams, possibly Black Eyed Peas, Little Mix. I mean, it's going to be quite an event.
It is.
And we're going to talk now to Louise McCarthy, who's a student at the University of Chester, believe it or not. And she originally went to the original concert with her 9-year-old daughter, Seren. And that was her first ever concert, and she's now taken her back to this one, which will be quite an emotional thing, I would imagine.
It will be.
Let's talk to her now. Louise, a very good afternoon to you.
Hello, Louise.
Hello, Louise.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
We can hear you now. Welcome to the show, Louise. This is going to be quite an event, both for you and your daughter, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's. I think it's going to be very emotional.
Yeah,
it's going to be very emotional. What were the circumstances of your presence at the original concert, which of course caused such atrocious damage and death and injury to people? Where were you in all that, Louise?
We were seated in block 204 and we came out of the doors into the foyer. We were probably about 60 seconds walk away.
Mm-hmm. So you just missed it, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, having been that close and, as you say, a minute away from a terrible disaster, do you feel absolutely confident about going back into the same sort of circumstances, i.e. a huge location, a huge arena where there's going to be tens of thousands of people?
I think I'd be lying if I said that I was confident.
Right.
I'm anxious. I think as a mum, to my daughter back into that situation.
Yeah. No, I can fairly understand. But nevertheless, do you think that you've got to just bite your lip and say, look, you can't mollycoddle your children, we can't have our freedoms restricted? Are you doing it for, A, because you want your daughter to see the concert, but B, you're making a statement? Hello, Louise.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, it's kind of going in and out, though.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't want to visit concerts. I don't. Yeah, I think that we're going mostly to obviously process what happened. Hopefully, it'll help her to heal.
Sure. I mean, what was her reaction? Because I've got a son who's not much older than 9. I can't imagine having to have gone through something like that with somebody so young. I mean, how did she react?
She was terrified.
Yeah.
She was absolutely terrified, and I think the look of fear on her face, it will haunt me forever. Yeah, it was dreadful.
It is dreadful, and you've got to come to that. It's very much a mother and daughter bonding situation, this, isn't it, Louise? Because the previous night, there's going to be the Champions League final down in Cardiff. Now, that's the biggest football game in the world, or one of them. And traditionally, a dad takes his sons to football, and mums take their little girls out to places like this. I mean, this is part of a mother-daughter bonding situation, which should be a fearless occasion, shouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I'm hoping that Seren will realise after this event that actually that these things don't always happen. I just hope that she comes out of that and feels a little bit more positive.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right, then. We've got to say, she's 9 years of age. The first concert you took her to was the atrocity, and you've got to take her to another one to make sure she doesn't think it happens every time there's a concert with one of her favourite stars.
Exactly, and I think it's important. I think it's important that our children feel safe, and by keeping them away from it, it's kind of saying, I suppose it's saying that it's not safe to go to these things. So it is important, obviously, that she goes. For me,
And
I don't want her to be scared.
No, and it's going to be it's going to be a massive event, obviously, but it's going to be a fantastic event too, with all the different bands and individuals that are going to be there. So, I mean, is she a big fan of any of the other artists that are going to be there, like Justin Bieber or Katy Perry?
Oh dear, we seem to have lost the line there. I'm really sorry.
We do, Louise. Yeah. We'll try and get it back.
Yeah, but Louise, thanks very much indeed for talking to us. And as you say, studying psychology at the University of Chester.
Yes, I mean, I didn't know the University of Chester existed.
Well, it didn't exist when I was there. It was a teachers' training college. It's now a university.
It's now a university.
So,
there you go.
It's gone up in the world.
Well, I mean, good luck to Louise and to her daughter, Saren, as well, who's going, and to anybody else who's going too, who's going for the same reason that they were at the original concert.
Absolutely.
And they really want to make sure, especially if they've got a young child, that they understand that actually, this doesn't happen. It's a very unusual event, and you can go to as many concerts as you like. It'll probably never happen again.
I think that lady we just spoke to, Louise McCarthy, she's 34, 9-year-old daughter. I think she's incredibly brave to say, we're going to conquer our fear. We're going to go, because it's you're going into the unknown, aren't you? When you go into a huge arena, a game with tens of thousands of people. Yeah. And as I say, the night before is the football. We've got to be allowed to get out and go to these things, with the freedoms that we have in this country, and we cherish them. And the people who do go are actually the frontline troops of resistance against those who would try to change our way of life.
Indeed, and it's at the Emirates Old Trafford Cricket Ground. I think tickets sold out in about 20 minutes,
which is
extraordinary, isn't it? But you can hear the live coverage of the concert on the Total Access show on Virgin Radio, which is our sister station right here, of course, on talkSPORT.
When you named all those stars before, are they all performing, or are they just going to sit there in the front seat?
Oh no, they'll all be performing.
So will they be the warm-up act, literally, for our Rio Grande?
I guess they'll come on and off, won't they? She'll do probably a duet with Justin Bieber.
Oh, I see.
She'll do a bit with Coldplay.
She might have a half-time break,
Katy
and somebody
Perry
else will come on, and she'll come
It'll
back.
be like these all-star type. It'll be like sort of Live Aid, when they have different bands coming on doing one song, different band coming on doing another song. It'll be terrific. It'll be absolutely amazing. Yeah. And of course, as I say, you can hear it all on Virgin Radio.
Yeah.
This is talkSPORT. A very civilised version of the Champions League theme tune, isn't it?
Certainly is.
And the music, of course, is because this is the time for the Porky quiz.
It is.
And at this time of the day, this time tomorrow, it's going to be very much heating up down there in Cardiff.
It is.
Juventus taking on Real Madrid. I'm just putting out now a link where you can watch the Porky quiz as well as listen to it.
Yes.
Because it's going to be live on Facebook as we speak. So we've got 10 questions.
Tell me when that link's gone, and I'll send that link out as well.
I'm just doing it now, but I'm actually waiting for the questions to be delivered
by
our team.
Yeah, fair
because
enough.
of the producer Izzy has got the envelope. And here it comes, the white envelope included.
And that is the only copy.
This is the only copy,
guys.
This is the only copy, as you know.
I'm going to tell you something now. Because this is a daytime quiz, I've made absolutely certain there's going to be no gerrymandering of the questions.
Is that right?
One set of questions. If I get the first two right, you won't be able to bring in your substitute questions to try and gerrymander this quiz.
That has never happened in the history of the Porky quiz.
Oh, yeah, that's what you say. I know it has.
Right.
I know it has,
I'm now putting out the link to watch it live. It's on Twitter. If you go to our Facebook page, you can find it as well.
Yeah.
I'm just opening the
envelope
here.
I'm resending that tweet.
Okay.
Retweet. I'm putting this phone away because I do not need any information.
Good, excellent.
This phone, right? So I'm not cheating. I've nothing here, no paper, nothing.
Yeah.
Phone over there. Okay.
All right, fine.
Right
now, you have 10 questions to answer as per usual. If you get one correct, you will hear this sound.
Didier Drogba gets a header in, and he scores.
If you get one incorrect, you will hear this sound.
Saved by Cech, and he gobbles it up at the second attempt.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Is that clear?
Yeah. I know both of those instances. Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's got nothing to do with the quiz.
Right.
I'm now going to ask you the first question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Should we keep the music? No, I don't think we want music.
No, thanks. No.
All right. Question number one.
Right.
Where was the first UEFA Champions League final played?
The first Champions League final.
Yes.
That was played at the Stade Olympia, or known in English, the Olympia Stadium in Munich.
Didier Drogba gets it!
And thank you very much indeed.
He's got a bit early with that, correct.
Well, and I tell you why, because a few years later I went to the very same stadium and I saw England beat Germany 5-1, and there's a plaque outside which says this is where the first Champions League final took place.
So you're turning this into like Slumdog Millionaire?
No,
Tell me why you know the answer.
No, but let me tell you something else about it as well.
I haven't got time for that.
The
Alliance
is now Bayern Munich's ground, but it was Bayern Munich's ground in those days.
All right, fine. You don't get any extra points for that. Question number 2.
Yeah.
Madrid is the most successful city in the Champions League. Which city comes in second place?
Second place for Madrid?
Yeah.
Without a shadow of a doubt, that is Milan.
That's right.
Thank you. Thank you.
How do you seem so certain about this?
Because it's easy. It's easy to know. Look, you've got.
You've never done this well. You've never been this certain.
But you see, at this stage now, folks, normally when I've got the first two right. You've got the gerrymandered list of...
I've got one list.
Yeah, no.
One list.
No, you only got one list today, mate.
No, I've always only got one
list. And believe me, cream rises to the surface, OK?
To the top, actually.
Yeah, to the top.
Question number 3.
Right.
Jose Mourinho won his first Champions League trophy with Porto.
Yes.
In the season 2003-2004.
Yes.
Who did they beat in the final?
In the final, they beat Monaco. It was at Gerschelkirchen, which is where...
Where was it?
It was Gerschelkirchen, right?
Gerschelkirchen. You sure that's right? You were going with that, are you?
Look, the question was, who did they beat? The answer is Monaco.
Yeah, but I would forget about where it was because you're getting it wrong.
It was at Gelsenkirchen, right?
And
Gelsenkirchen. I've been there,
I'm
and
not
again, I saw the plaque
You're
there.
You're sounding more and more like the kid on Slumdog Millionaire.
No, I saw the plaque there, and that's where England went out in the 2006 World Cup in Germany.
All right, question number 4.
Yeah.
In 1999, Manchester United won a dramatic final in the last seconds of the game. Who scored the winning goal against Bayern Munich?
Everybody knows the answer to this, and so do I. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And that was just 4 minutes after Teddy Sheringham had equalised. And it was at the...
Hang on a second. How do you know so much about these questions
because
and answers?
I've told you. It's my expert subject. I've been to 4 finals. I've watched every final over the years. I did a lot of studying this week because I knew this was coming up.
Rubbish.
I did not want to let the audience down. It is the biggest game in the world football.
There's no way.
I was determined to be on top of it.
Well,
4 out of 4.
I'll tell you what. If you get the next one right, I'm going to commit a steward's inquiry to paper.
Well,
question number 5.
I couldn't care less.
Question number 5. What was the highest scoring final?
The highest scoring final in the history of the Champions League. Now, I haven't studied or researched this fact, but I'm going through I'll tell you what, the most common score in the final is either 2-1 or 1-1 at 90 minutes. However, of course, it's just come to me, smarter than the average bear, it must be Liverpool's dramatic victory over AC Milan in 2005, 3-3.
How was it a dramatic victory at 3-3?
Because it was then a penalty shootout, which Liverpool won.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's very, very strange, this.
Where's your second list now? Where's your second list of questions now?
I've never had a second list of questions, and you've never done this well.
This proves it. This
proves that you're probably cheating, is what this proves.
How am I cheating?
I don't know. Somehow you managed to get hold of the questions.
Rubbish.
Security during the day may not be what it is at night.
Rubbish.
Right, question number 6. Yes. When did Celtic last reach the knockout stages of the Champions League?
I discussed this with Sir Roderick Stewart on the plane north when we went to see... I did.
No, you didn't.
I did.
That's rubbish. I was on the plane. You did not discuss it with
You were
Rod
on the
Stewart.
plane, and so were his 2 sons and his brother and Sir Rod.
And you did not discuss this with him.
I said to him... I was in the car, actually, coming away from the ground.
In the car?
I was in the car.
I was also in the car. You didn't discuss it with him then either.
In the ground, and he we asked about Champions League next season.
No,
and he
seen
said,
the questions.
No, I have not.
Yeah,
and he said, we need to get back to the good old days. And I said, what's that? And he said, 2013. So the answer is 2013.
Actually, it's 2012.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
it's the season 2012-13.
They reached the final stages in 2012. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
I'll give you that. You've seen these questions.
I have not seen
You've
these
definitely
questions.
seen these questions.
I have not seen these questions.
OK, question number 7.
Yes.
Atletico Madrid have never won the final. How many times have they been in it?
Atletico have never won it, but they got very close on 2 occasions, and it was both within their renaissance in the last 4 years. So it must have been, because we're in 2017, they were in it last year, 2016. They were in it, I think it was either 2 or 3 years before that. So 2016, and then I'm thinking aloud here for the first time. Was it 2013? No, I'm going to go for 2014. 2014, 2016.
Well, I didn't ask you for the years. I just asked you how many times they've been in the final.
Oh, right, twice.
And you got the years right.
Yes, I did.
And
yes.
you haven't seen these questions?
No, of course I haven't seen the
I'm going to
questions.
start reading out some of the tweets I'm getting. Alan says, I smell a rat. Porky has never been right so many times.
Rubbish.
OK, who is responsible for leaving a copy of the Porky quiz on the photocopier?
Nobody.
Says Neil. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you a little test here, though.
Right.
Because the original list of questions that was submitted didn't have a question 10.
Oh, really?
So if you don't get question 10 right, you definitely cheated.
No.
Question number 8.
Yeah.
Who scored the fastest ever Champions League goal? No way you know this one.
Fastest ever
No way
goal.
do you know this one.
Fastest. Now, that would have been, let me think. I think it was a German guy called Willi Makaischen, right?
Who?
Willi.
Yeah.
And he played for Bayer Leverkusen.
That's incorrect.
What?
Saved by Czech, and he gobbles it up at the second
It was a guy who played for Bayern Munich, but his name is Roy Mackay.
Oh, really?
And he scored against Real Madrid in 2007.
Roy Mackay.
10.12
Yeah, I nearly got it
seconds.
right. I said Willi Makaischen.
Willi Makaischen?
Yeah, I thought it was his name.
Is that what you've written down after you read the questions?
Don't be ridiculous.
So that's the first one you got wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
You got 7 right. That's unheard of.
7 out of 8.
Okay.
Yes.
Question number 9.
Yes.
Lionel Messi and Ronaldo are the top scorers in the Champions League this season, with 11 and 10 respectively.
Yeah.
Who's third?
Third?
Yeah. Did you not get down this far in the questions?
No, hang on.
list?
It's joint third. Luhanski, right? No doubt about that. Bayern Munich.
Luhanski.
Yeah, and PSG's Naven.
Incorrect.
No, it's not incorrect.
How do you know it's not incorrect?
Because I'm sure of my facts.
Oh, sure of your facts. You want to give me those names again?
Cavan. I'm sorry. It was Luhanski and Cavan of PSG.
No, incorrect.
No.
It's Lewandowski
Yeah.
and Cavani.
Yeah.
So you got that wrong.
Hang on.
No, you've pronounced them wrong.
Rubbish.
No, pronounced them
That is
wrong.
utter rubbish.
You
You know
said
the player
Cavan.
I was talking
You
about.
said Cavan.
I said Bayern Munich striker
You
Luhanski.
said Cavan and Luhanski.
Yeah.
That's not who it is.
And what do you say the second name is?
Cavani.
Yeah, you see, that's one I left off on the end. Cavan is absolutely right.
So did you forget that from when you saw the
No,
question?
I have not seen the question.
Why are you smiling?
You've got to give me half a point there.
No, I don't
You've
think
got
so.
to. I
No,
said
no way.
Luhanski.
No chance.
Who do you think I said?
You said Luhanski.
Yes.
That's not his name.
What's his
name's
name?
Lewandowski.
Yeah, I pronounce it Luhanski, and I'm absolutely right in pronouncing it
care
like that.
what you pronounce
have
it.
to give me half a point for
No
that.
way.
You've
already got 7.
You're cheating.
You never get 7.
You're cheating.
Now, this is where the proof will be in the pudding, right? Because the last 2 questions you almost got right, but you mangled the names. So that's why you knew the answers, but you got them wrong.
No.
Question number 10, I don't think you'll get.
Yeah.
Because you won't have seen the question. Who has made the most appearances in the Champions League?
In the Champions League?
Yes, who?
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 You can talk about one footballer.
I'm talking about a name.
Yeah. In the Champions League.
You haven't seen this one, have you?
What?
You haven't seen this one,
I haven't seen
have
any
you?
of them.
You've
I haven't
seen
seen
the
any of them.
previous 9.
I haven't seen any
You've
of them.
somehow seen the previous
Right,
9.
I know that the man who's won more Champions Leagues than anybody, and Ronaldo could equal it, is Clarence Seedorf. So I'm going to say Clarence Seedorf.
Incorrect.
No.
Nowhere near.
No.
Nowhere near. And
No.
proof, as
No.
if it were ever needed, that
Yeah.
you didn't see
Yeah.
question 10 because there was no question 10. The
No.
answer is Iker Casillas, who has made 164 appearances,
Right, okay.
both for Porto and Real Madrid.
Yeah, well, that's very close to
Didn't
Clarence
know that one,
Seedorf's
did you?
number. Yeah, I did, yeah.
Clarence Seedorf.
Yes.
7,
You've got to give me...
7 out of 10.
No, you've got to give me
Shocking.
half a point for Luhanski.
If you're not careful, you will be disqualified for cheating.
No, I didn't cheat. Luhanski,
Yeah, you did.
I got right. I got Cavan right. And you are a damned filthy cheat for not giving me at least half a point.
I don't think so.
And you should give me 1.
Listen to this from Dan, who says, no thinking aloud, no hesitation,
What?
cheating of the highest order from
Rubbish.
Mike Parry.
Utter rubbish.
This is ridiculous. Hilarious radio, says Darbs. Mike Parry has got to have seen these questions. He
No.
keeps babbling
No.
to justify his knowledge.
No.
I'm shocked. Absolutely shocked.
Well, you should be shocked, mate. You should be shocked by the...
unbelievable. I nearly I'll try to hit the camera there. 7 out of 10.
7.5
That was
out of 10.
the Porky quiz.
7.5 out of 10.
I said yeah, I said yeah. What they say?
Okay, folks, this is the 2 mics. We're on talkSPORT and we're with Wix, okay? Now, right now, there's a 3 for 2 across gardens and landscaping, and, of course, it includes all decking and wood care.
Now we get an awful lot of action on social
very
media
positive,
here.
I hope.
A lot
Very
of people
positive.
watched it, of course, on
Yeah,
Facebook, and they
yeah.
could see
Yes.
that you were not behaving in the way that you normally behave.
Yeah.
HK says this.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced he isn't cheating, but the questions are much, much easier than usual.
Well,
Don't know about that.
I've got one here. Well done, Porky. The questions were reasonable. You know, you faced up to them. All sorts of fantastic responses. Thank you very much indeed. It's great. When you cheat, you don't get them all right. Obviously, you're smarter than the average bear, Porky.
What you you're suggesting you got a couple wrong deliberately.
No. Top effort on the quiz from Porky. The second set of questions late arriving this week to derail the Porkmeister. I believe in the Porkmeister. Thank you very much indeed. This is a terrific response.
Porky's definitely read those answers, says Paul.
No.
Charlie says it's crystal clear that the independent quizmasters have been got at big time.
No.
The backhanders have obviously crossed palms.
No, not at all.
Glory says, how long has Monica Lewinsky played for Bayern?
Oh, don't be ridiculous. I said Lewandowski, and you treated me out of question there. I said Cavani.
Yeah, well, you said Cavan.
No, the I at the end just came off. You know,
because you obviously made a note of it somewhere.
No.
The proof is that the question 10 you had no idea about.
Don't be ridiculous.
You didn't get Iker Casillas' name slightly wrong.
No.
You didn't know it.
I think you find the guy I mentioned, Clarence Seedorf, is about the third highest number of games in the Champions League. Third highest, Clarence Seedorf.
Clarence Seedorf. No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
No, absolutely
he is about. Anyway, look, I'm not getting into that.
Pete says clearly didn't have enough time to spy on the questions at the end.
No.
And here's one from Alan. Absolutely shocking cheating from Porky. No way did he know all those answers off the top of his head. Steward's inquiry needed.
No.
Adrian says Mike Parry's body language was highly suspicious. Scratching, fidgeting, etc.
No, it wasn't. No.
Ian says I'm a Porky fan, but doesn't take Sherlock to realise he cheated there. So quick with all the questions, but then gormless with question 10.
No.
Completely and utterly.
Don't be ridiculous.
Scott says Porky quiz, more like Porky fix.
Well, no,
he didn't even mask the fact that he had seen the answers.
I don't be ridiculous.
I'm absolutely staggered.
All right, how could I have seen the answers?
I don't know, but you obviously did.
Hang on, you and the independent quizmasters, if they exist, because I've never seen them, nobody ever has. Right?
All I'm telling you is I've seen the questions for the first time as I open the envelope.
Don't you?
That's the first time I've seen them.
Don't you have any sort of security procedures here to make sure that those questions?
We do.
Well, how could I possibly see them?
You were in here a lot earlier.
I totally and utterly deny.
You were in here a lot earlier than me this morning.
I don't care.
So it's very possible
I have no idea where the questions are, mate. You know, I mean, the point is I've been studying the Champions League all this week because I want to enjoy the game to the full tomorrow, and I can't enjoy the game unless I know the facts behind the competition. And I'm afraid I was just on form, and it was my day.
I'll be doing some inquiries. Anyway, Joanne says this. She would love a mention. You two got me through this last year. Your wonderful show made the long hospital nights easier. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better, Joanne.
Yeah.
Massive weekend of sport coming up, of course,
right
here on talkSPORT, because it is the Champions League. It's the derby as well. There's cricket on Sunday. There's all sorts of stuff going on, and there's lots and lots of it right here on talkSPORT. Coming up next, of course, though, is Hawksby and Jacobs, and Max Rushton is going to be here. We are the Two Mics. We'll be back tomorrow. And, of course, the Two Mics on talkSPORT give away always a Wix, £100 Wix gift card. And today, the winner is Greg, the Man United fan, who called us up to ask us which two sports don't allow beards.
From Cardiff.
From Cardiff, even though, of course, he got one of them wrong.
He did.
Because apparently you can be a jockey and have a beard.
Yeah.
We'll be back on the warm-up tomorrow from 11. Don't miss it.
No.
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.